What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from the 10-7 MMA channel, and we are back finally with a good old-fashioned Ariel Helwani beef. This is Ariel Helwani versus Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo, and I wanted to actually explain the backstory. Ariel released a great video on his channel today, which is basically an excerpt of him explaining his side of this back and forth that's going on between him and Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo. And I've been waiting for these guys to say something because I actually do feel as though Ariel was really poking the bear. The way that he explains what he was saying and describes his perspective and the statements he was making, I don't think fully captures a lot of the things that he was saying, because I remember, I'm going to play it for you. I'm going to play exactly what he said. He paraphrases what he says, and he kind of explains, hey, I didn't make it personal. I wasn't coming after you guys, and you guys are making it personal. I actually think that's not exactly an accurate reflection of what he was saying, because the heat that he put behind his words in terms of what a travesty it would be if Kamaru Usman got a title shot, which I think was an exaggeration. Like, that was, I don't know if you want to call it personal, but that was definitely, he had some extra heat on that message. And I called it out right away when I saw it. I was like, I feel like he's got this type of energy specifically because he doesn't have a good relationship with Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo. I notice it all the time. And again, I'm not trying to just pile up on Ariel Helwani. This is just a thing that I've noticed many, many times over the years. He's still my favorite person to listen to with interviews. Nobody conducts an interview better, but sometimes his bias is going to creep in. We all have biases. It's impossible to be perfectly objective all the time. But him, and in particular, he has a beef with the promotion and Ali and all these other fighters that basically have tried to destroy his livelihood by refusing to go onto a show and things like that. So I don't necessarily say he's crazy for feeling certain things about certain people because of what it's done potentially to his career, but I just need to call it out, and that way I can give you guys an accurate viewpoint of really what's going on in this beef. I think the way that Ariel presents it, and you're going to see that clip right off the bat, is obviously slanted in his favor, but I don't think it gives you the full story. So I'm going to give you the full story with all the context. We got a good beef breakdown. Is it going to go back? Are they going to fire back again? I don't know if they will. And is this a 10-7 either way? I don't think so, actually. I think this is kind of somewhere in the middle. I don't even know how to score it right now, but let's get into the beef, and I'm going to explain some of the details as we go through, because I already made a video not too long ago about why I would actually be okay. I'm not saying it's the ultimate fight. Oops, that's supposed to say Kamaru and Henry on Ariel. My bad. But I'm not saying this is the fight that I want, but I wouldn't be that mad if Kamaru Usman did get the fight against Usman Makhachev. I went through, and just out of respect, this guy has been there, done that. He's been one of the best welterweights on the planet. He took that Khamzat Chimaev fight when he didn't have to on 10 days notice. That's like, think how terrifying that is. That was a huge favor to the UFC, and he actually did pretty darn good. You know, he won that third round. I mean, he was really, it's up a weight class. To not give him respect for that and to count that as, when people are saying he's 1-3, I just didn't think that was fair at all. And then on top of that, he fought Buckley, an up-and-comer. That guy, everybody's now acting like Buckley is no good. Dude, at that point, Buckley was on a tear. He was talking about getting a title shot after beating Kamaru Usman. I mean, he was one fight away. Kamaru Usman messed Buckley up. Like, people are just not wanting to give him any credit. I think that's unfair. So anyways, let's get into the mix. We're going to hear Ariel's thoughts right off the bat. And this is actually Ariel playing what Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo said about him, and he's kind of reacting to it in real time. Check this out.
Where it appears as though one of the all-time best fighters, former UFC welterweight champion, Kamaru Usman, is talking about me, but he's not referencing my name. He's not saying my name, but it's very clear that he's talking about me. Anyway, I wanted to play the video, give them a little bit of attention and the rub, because I know that that's really what they wanted deep down inside, and react to it. So here it is.
A person that will not be named in the show, but I guarantee you they could probably smell us from here.
Damn.
Well, let's just talk about
you got
this.
a big nose, Kamaru.
They could smell us from here. But Henry, listen, why would we, as professional fighters, why would we go on these shows anymore with people who don't have G14 classification?
Like, if you're not great, I don't want you speaking on my greatness. Don't start talking about he's not this and that, like, because now it's unauthentic. I have G14 classification say, unless he's averaging 28-15, I don't see him as a dominant big man. I can say that.
Why would I be sitting there talking to you? Because you're just a glorified fan. The real journalists that have a conversation with us, Henry, before fights, and then they write about it, that's different. Not these people who are media personalities basically give their opinion. You talk about me to stay relevant. I don't talk about you. I don't care about you.
You've been in the headlines, and it's a matter of respect to Kamaru. I would take it as like, all right, man, I'm the big dog. I'm the sheriff in town.
But that's why they're talking about me, Henry, because of that. Because I am the big dog. I am the name. That's why they are talking about me.
Okay, and he followed that up, that video, with a tweet, again, talking about me when he's saying that he doesn't want to talk about me on Thanksgiving, no less. They were never qualified. That's why they're no longer invited to the events. And so this is the same old playbook. This is the same old playbook, especially from the ones who have no creativity, who aren't able to think on their own with any kind of good trash talk, and especially from the Ali crew. It's always two things. It's always big nose, and it's always he can't get invited to the events. When they don't, they've been in the fight game long enough, they would know that you don't get invited to these events as a media member. You apply for a credential, and then they say yes or no. But that's a semantic. Obviously, we understand they're trying to hit me below the belt, even though I've tried to explain and prove time and again that I haven't applied for a credential since March 2020. Izzy Romero pandemic hit. I was supposed to go to the Leon Nate Diaz fight, my last show at ESPN. Then I decided to leave, and on it goes. But they always go to those same two things because they feel like that's the best way to hit.
Okay. So there it is. That's Ariel explaining their perspective of what they were saying or whatever. You could tell he's visibly shook. He's upset. And I understand this. The people say these same things to him over and over and over the last like 10 years. He keeps having to explain himself. So I get the frustration. I get why he's kind of not like it almost looks like at times he's quivering a little bit. Like he's really fired up. But again, like I said, I understand why he feels that way. He feels like he's had to explain himself multiple times. Now, what Ariel is now trying to say, though, is that like I don't get why they're coming at me this way. They just want to throw low blows and poke me and hit me and attack me when I'm just saying I don't think my take was that crazy. All I was saying was that Kamaru Usman shouldn't be next, and there's people that are more deserving. But that's not exactly what he said. So I actually, hold on. Actually, Ariel's going to explain his statements right now in this video, and then I'm going to go back and show you guys exactly what he really said and the tone in which he said it, and it tells a different story. All right, check this out.
Remark, clearly I have struck a nerve. And what is the nerve that I struck? I had the audacity to say that someone who hasn't won a fight, hasn't won more than 2 fights since 2021. He's 1-3 since 2021. He won 1 fight in June, and then his last win prior to that was a win in 2021, had the loss against Hamza, which I gave him all the props in the world for, and then the 2 losses against Leon. And I had the audacity to say that this guy doesn't deserve a title shot. I didn't say that he's a bum. I didn't say that he's a never was. I didn't say that he's one of the worst champions of all time. Obviously, I think George St. Pierre, and I don't think this is a hot take, is the greatest welterweight champion of all time, but I didn't make it personal. I didn't hit him below the belt. He's talking about my nose. By the way, I've been hearing about my nose since I was a kid, and I'm the one who leans into the nose stuff. I don't make, you think I get offended about the nose? I make merch with Helwani nose on it. You think that's going to bother me? You think that's going to make me feel sad about myself? But I don't go there. Like some people would say, say that, Kamaru's hairline is afraid of his forehead. I don't say that stuff. I don't go there. I don't go to the same places that these guys go because they have no creativity. They have no actual way of coming up with good creative trash talk. So they hit me with the nose stuff, which I already hit myself with. And then they hit me with the untruth of the credential stuff, which I've already cleared up time and again. But to them, and the way that they have been programmed by their master Ali, they've been programmed to think that unless you're a part of this group and you have to do everything in your power to be accepted and to be wanted by this group that is the UFC and Uncle Dana, you are not.
So he's saying that he doesn't make it personal, but I get it. I get what he's saying. I mean, he's not throwing ad hominem attacks, but at the same time, I'm going to show you what he actually said right after this. But the way that he's saying things and the bias, I hate to say it, that comes out when it comes to Ali's fighters or fighters that he doesn't have a relationship with, can be viewed as personal attacks because he's making a big show about how it would be such a travesty if Kamaru Usman got a title shot. That's his livelihood. That's his bread and butter. And Ariel's coming out and campaigning hardcore against it. And he's not showing that same energy with other fighters, which I'm going to show another comparable clip in a little bit. So I can understand why these guys are taking it personally. I think Ariel should be able to understand that as well when he's coming with this type of energy, also attacking Ali time and again and throwing these little shots at Ali over and over. That's their boy. So it's not totally fair to just be like, look, man, I was just being objective journalist and all that. You know what I mean? It's not exactly, that's not really the full story. Now let me go to the old clip of what Ariel actually said, talking about Kamaru Usman. Hear the energy, hear the tone, hear the disgust in his voice when this is even theorized as a possibility. And he also throws Ali under the bus when talking about this. Check this out.
It would be an absolute travesty, in my opinion, if Kamaru Usman gets this next title shot. I mean, I'm sorry. You have one win over Joaquin Buckley. I mean, I'm sorry. These guys are out there killing it. Sean Brady, my heart breaks for Sean Brady. Sean Brady should have been fighting for the belt.
That's
next.
rough.
Sean Brady should have fought for the belt tonight, or he should have gotten his next fight should have been for the belt. And this guy has to fight Michael Morales in like a total lose-lose fight because Morales is not a household name, but you see Brady next to him and it looks like a 205er against a 155er. And you saw what happened. Like Brady is tough as hell. Look how good he looked. Who'd have thought back in March when he's completely mauling Leon? 8 months later, they're both on the losing end of insane knockouts against these guys. Like it's just.
I just want to say something real quick. He's talking about how his heart breaks for Sean Brady. What about his heart breaking when Kamaru Usman had to go up and fight Khamzat Chimaev at 185? I mean, that's kind of like the same thing as Michael Morales. They're both right like that much bigger than these welterweight fighters. And he took that on 10 days notice, went up there and got smashed. I mean, he actually came back in round 3, I think, because Khamzat got actually injured in round 1. He severely damaged his hand, and then he couldn't have that same energy and that same pressure. And I think he was also sick too. I know I'm making a lot of excuses for Khamzat Chimaev. People say I'm a Khamzat apologist, but that is what happened. But anyways, I mean, right? It's kind of a similar situation. Just the only difference is after that insane matchup, after that loss at the middleweight division, which he should get a lot of props for actually how well he did because he basically put on the best performance against Khamzat out of anybody. So you should get a lot of props for that. He's come back and fought Joaquin Buckley, a hungry young buck, the new generation, the guy that people thought was going to get a title shot next. It's just people have forgotten. That's how the sport goes. Buckley loses to Kamaru Usman. Now everybody's forgotten about him and thinks he's nothing, thinks he's nobody, thinks he's got no shot in the welterweight division. Wasn't like that. Wasn't that type of energy before. So I'm just saying an interesting contrast and compare in terms of how he's talking about Sean Brady versus Kamaru Usman, which really didn't have that much of a different set of circumstances.
It's cruel. It's cruel what happened to him, but he took the fight and no one put a gun to his head, but I don't think he had many choices. If they go with Kamaru Usman, who has zero momentum whatsoever, who has one win against Joaquin Buckley, when all these guys are doing this stuff, for like, give me Praches, give me Morales, give me Ian coming off a decision win over Bilal, and give me Shavkat, who hasn't fought in a year over that Usman fight. I'm sorry, that would be disgusting if Kamaru Usman somehow gets a title shot next. And the only reason it would happen, in my opinion, is because they're both managed by the same guy, and there's some sort of agreement made there. Because I can't think of any other reason other than he was once a champion many moons ago. Like, come on, what do we?
I mean, like now, right? The way that Ariel explained how he said it is totally different because there's a couple things. He said it's disgusting. It's a travesty. That's a lot of heat. That's a lot of negative energy behind those statements. And on top of that, he's saying that if it were to happen, he's alleging that there's a backroom deal between the UFC and Ali. I mean, that's a big allegation to throw out there. And I'm sure Usman and I'm sure Ali and I'm sure the whole roster of fighters don't take too kindly to that type of talk, saying that, hey, if he's going to get it, it's so clearly undeserved that there must be essentially almost like an illegal backroom deal. Like that, he said a lot more than what he let on in the show. And I can, like, do you guys agree with me? I can totally understand why Usman is super pissed, obviously. That wasn't just an objective journalistic opinion. That's from my vantage point. And we're going to show you a different clip in a second when he's reacting to Diego Lopez getting the Volk fight again. I mean, I don't see that as being that much different than Kamaru Usman coming out and getting this fight. Diego Lopez had the shot. He lost. He got one win, and he's bounced back. And we know Lerone, and even Ariel admits this, Lerone Murphy and Makhachev Evloev are much better suited in terms of their position and their win streaks and whatnot and what they've done lately to actually go up and get that title shot. But they gave it instead to Diego Lopez because, I mean, Diego Lopez is a legend. I'm not mad about it, but I'm just saying it's a similar situation. And Ariel has completely different type of energy. It's again because of the relationships he has. It is like, it is what it is. We can all see it. I guess he just doesn't want to admit it, and maybe it's hard for him to admit it, or maybe he doesn't see it. I mean, we're all going to be blind to some extent to our level of subjectiveness and objectiveness, etc. Okay, so now I'm going to show you this clip. This is Ariel. This is to compare and contrast Ariel's reaction to Diego versus Volk, which I think is kind of a similar thing. Check this out.
I mean, Lerone Murphy has won 9 fights in a row. Movsar Evloev has won 9 fights in a row. Lerone Murphy is coming off a spinning back elbow. He should be next. He should be next. They like Diego Lopez. I like Diego Lopez. He's got a great win over John Silva under his belt. It was a frenetic fight, and it will be a fun fight. There's no doubt about it. But I have a hard time justifying that he deserves it over Lerone Murphy or even Movsar Evloev. And maybe that's the fight that we're getting next. I don't know. I've reached out to his team, and I haven't heard anything yet. But that's the next one. And so we are getting Alex in Australia. That's great. And it's a week later. That's great. It's right before the Olympics. That's great. But I thought I long ago was off the Lerone fighting for the belt train because I knew that they were going to do this. But I thought after he scored that spinning back elbow against Aaron Pico, because I think they were going to try to give it to Aaron Pico, if I'm being honest, had he won that fight, I thought in that moment it was going to go to Lerone, and long ago, right after the Noche UFC card, it became very clear that they were going to go in the direction of Diego Lopez, and them's the breaks. And you've seen Lerone and Diego and Movsar kind of allude to this.
Anyways, that's the level of energy. There was no, it's a travesty. There was no, it's disgusting. There was no, hey, it's got to be a backroom deal, right? Like you can see the difference in terms of the way Ariel's approaching it. And again, you have to wonder why, but I mean, I think it's clear at this point what it is. They don't like each other. Let's just say what it is, what it is. And let's just be straight up about how you were saying and what the energy is that you were putting behind it when you said it. And that's why they're upset. It's obvious why they're upset. And I don't think what they said was so bad about Ariel, and they're going to throw the shots. Like, what are you going to do? You're poking the bear. I think it's kind of justified. And we also have another thing that Ariel said on his show not too long ago, which was another little sly jab at Ali, even though he doesn't mention Ali's name. I'm sure this pissed them off as well. Check this out.
One issue that I sometimes have with managers is that I feel like some managers, care more about their relationship with the UFC than their relationship with the fighters. So ultimately, as long as they're in good standing with the UFC, they're happy about that, and they'll do whatever to keep that relationship strong. And, if there's a few casualties along the way with the fighters, so be it. They're a dime a dozen. I feel like that's the sentiment. Mm-hmm. Do you understand what I'm talking about? You're shaking your head. So how do you, because ultimately I was talking to one fighter who told me, like, I don't want my manager to be best friends with the UFC. I want the UFC to respect them, but it's good sometimes when there's some friction, because that means he's fighting on my behalf.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you balance the two?
Well, I think you always have to put your fighter first, because, I mean, if he's not doing things correctly, if he's not fighting properly, the UFC is not going to give them opportunities.
Okay. Tell me honestly, was he not obviously talking about Ali there? So again, these guys are not dumb, right? Like Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo are gonna hear this stuff, and the whole team, they're gonna hear it, and they know what you're doing. I know maybe Ariel thinks he's sliding it under the radar, or maybe he does. I don't know, but obviously, dude, you're ruffling feathers on a continual basis. So, Kayla Harrison was on a show today, and he said some more things about Ali. Like, obviously, these guys, you're getting under their skin. All right, I think this is the last clip here. Yeah,
I'm very happy being.
All right, this is Ariel's defending his ability or his right, and he can say whatever he wants, dude. It's his platform, it's his show. He's built this up. He's an OG. Okay, massive respect to Ariel. I want it to be known, as I've said many times, you have to give Ariel a ton of respect. He is the best of the best. His interviews, man, his interview of, who was it recently? He did one of the best, like, hour and 10 minutes interview of, what's that dude? He's an up and coming. He just lost, but anyways, he does interviews better than anybody by 1,000%, 10,000%. He's so good. So I hope that you guys recognize that I am giving him his props, and I'm really trying to. We all have our issues. We all have our flaws. So I'm just trying to give this a fair play and fair coverage and explain exactly what I think is really going on. So that's all it is. But here's Ariel explaining why he does have a right. You know, those guys are saying he's a glorified fan, shouldn't be able to talk about the sport. Of course he can talk about the sport. He's very knowledgeable. He knows the fighter stories so well, so intimately. But this is him defending his G4 status. There's just one little thing that I know he harps on all the time, that it's like a little annoying that he brings it up so much. And also, I don't think it holds as much water as he thinks it holds. And I'm going to explain why, and then we're going to close out. Check this out.
Exactly where I am, and I've built something outside of that. They can only be successful. They can only be who they want to be if they are accepted by that. So they think that if you are not accepted by it, it's a knock against you. It's a shot against you. That's the difference in the mentality. And so they'll do everything to suck up and to be like, oh, yes, boss, look at your great shoes and look at your great closet and look at how much money you have and look how much success that you've generated for yourself. And I'll just be here speaking truth and telling it to you as it is. And I'll tell you what, I can guarantee you that the public would much prefer this than that, than whatever that is. You could call it G14 classification. You could call it whatever it is. My G14 classification is a degree from the greatest sports journalism school in the country. Look it up, Syracuse University. And if that isn't enough for you, 15 time in a row, World MMA Award Journalist of the Year.
Okay. Oh, by the way, G14, not G4. That was a typo, I guess. I don't know the saying, whatever. I just wanted to end on this because, like, I know he references his degree over and over. Okay, in my opinion, it's whatever. Dude, the guy is super qualified, and the thing he said at the end actually is verifiable justification of just how incredibly skilled he is. But I don't know if other people feel this way, but he keeps mentioning the school. Like, I know as an attorney, right, where I went to law school, yes, you can go to the best law school in the country, but you're not going to sit here like 20 years later being like, hey, I'm the best attorney on the planet because I went to Harvard University. You know, I've seen people that worked at firms with me from Yale, from Harvard, from the very top schools. I went to Northwestern, which is a great school, but you know, it's not at the tippy top of the law school programs. It's in the top 14, top 12, top 10, whatever. It hovers around there. Amazing law school. But nobody in law is going to sit there and just basically leverage that for the entirety of the career because it's meaningless. What you learn in law school, they always say, is like 5% of what you actually use. The majority of what you have to use in practice, you learn in the practice of law at the firm. So you're constantly building your skill set. What you learn in school is just the tiniest bit of training wheels. I have to imagine it's the same in these other professional degrees. Maybe there's some exceptions where the school part and the training that you receive in school is actually a huge stepping stone, but by and large, you're learning by experience. So I just wish you would stop just always going back to Syracuse University, even if it has great credentials. I'm sure there's lots of journalists that graduated from Syracuse that haven't done anything or transitioned to other fields. What makes Ariel good at his job is not where he went to school. What makes him good at it is that he cares, is that he shows up every day. He gives 1,000%. And the proof is in the pudding. It doesn't matter if he went to Syracuse. He's won Journalist of the Year, as he's mentioned, 15 times in a row. That's the credentials. The fact that his show is doing this well right now, those are his credentials. That's what he should rest on, and that's what he should basically reference if anybody wants to question anything he does. The quality of the product day in, day out, still 17 years in the game, still producing this amazing content. That's the credit to him. So anyways, ending on a positive note, just to let it be known, I massively appreciate Ariel Helwani and the journalism and the interviews that he provides. But I do want to give a fair play to Henry Cejudo and Kamaru Usman, that they're not just beating up on Ariel for no reason. It's not like Ariel didn't make it personal, but they crossed that line. You can see now that it was more than just an objective, hey, I think there's other people more deserving. That's not what he said. It was like pure disgust that he voiced, which I think was a bit unfair, and I think was colored by his relationship or lack thereof with Ali and his stable of fighters. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. That's what I got for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts. Do we have another beef brewing? Is this something that you guys want to hear more about if it continues? Do you even think it will continue? Do you think those guys won't clap back? I don't know. I could go either way. Sometimes I think guys know not to mess with Ariel because he's pretty savvy with his words, but will these guys lay down? I don't know. Maybe they won't. Maybe they decide they want to fight back, and we'll be able to continue to cover this beef alongside everything else that's going on in the world of mixed martial arts right now. Man, it is the best time that I can remember to be an MMA fan with all these things that are happening right now, all these amazing new fights on the horizon. So I'm just happy all around. Hope you guys are too. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.